Hello, this is Matthew Robert Payne. This is the book Conversations with God. This is part 23, I Must Decrease. God speaking. When John the Baptist came across Jesus, he said the famous line, I must decrease and he must increase. John realized that he wasn't to take the light from Jesus, and he decreased what he was doing, and he allowed Jesus to become the Messiah and shine a bright light in Israel. People don't understand that John the Baptist wasn't just a person from the desert baptizing people, a few people here and there. There's reports that he baptized millions of people, and that's someone with a lot of influence. I want my people, which includes you, to walk in humility. I desire people who follow me to build other people up and promote other people. I desire people who follow me to be a servant of all. You wouldn't know it these days with many apostles, but apostles used to be servants of all. They used to be the servant of the people they served, and not the head, and not someone to be worshipped and looked up to. I desire people to walk in humility and take away their desire to be popular, desire to be promoted, their desire to be something special. And I desire people to take the lowest seat. My son said, when you go to a party, take the lowest seat. And then the person who's running the party may come and get you and promote you to a higher seat. But when you go to a party, take the lowest seat. And he wasn't talking to you. He was talking to the Pharisees at the time, who liked the most important seats. I desire people to be humble. I desire people to put others first. I desire people to be servants of all. I desire humility in my people, and you can take this lesson and contemplate it. You live in a world where self-promotion is part of the practice. People post on Facebook, and they post on Instagram, and they post on Twitter, and they try and make a big name for themselves. And there's nothing wrong with posting on those platforms and spreading a message. I certainly want you to spread a message and be a humble kingdom operator, but I want you to be humble about it. I want you to serve without pretense. When my son was in Israel, he didn't promote himself to be the king of the Jews. He didn't promote himself to be the Son of God. It wasn't until toward the end of his ministry that he admitted that he was the Messiah. He didn't go forth and promote himself. He humbly healed people and addressed people's needs. He said some pretty profound things, and people could tell he flowed in a lot of wisdom. When he preached, he used hundreds of verses. If you were watching a YouTube video of the verses that Jesus preached and used, and the verse came up on the screen as he was talking about it, you would hardly see his face. The screen would always have a scripture verse on it. He was so prolific in using scripture verses. He backed up everything he had to say with scripture, and he did what people needed. He explained the meanings of scripture. He explained what scripture meant, and he placed it in its correct context. The Pharisees used to question him, and they'd use 5 scriptures to say what he just said was wrong, and he used to turn around and quote the 5 scriptures and then quote another 5 scriptures for each of those scriptures, and proved that the understanding the Pharisees had of those scriptures was wrong, and the true understanding of those 5 scriptures could be borne out in 25 scriptures. And he'd take over an hour to address the question, and the Pharisees just continued with question after question, partly because they wanted to prove Jesus wrong, and partly because they did have questions themselves and wanted to know the answer. You may notice if you have a Facebook dispute with someone, there's certain people who come forth with a lot of scripture and a lot of argument, and they can be self-righteous people, and they use many scriptures in their argument, and they use scripture as a sword to cut you down, to injure you, to insult you. This is not the way scripture is meant to be used. And Jesus never used scripture in that way. Although Jesus did say things that were offensive, you remember he called the Pharisees a brood of vipers. There's a law of first mention in the Bible. The first time a word is mentioned in the Bible helps to ascertain the meaning of the word, and that meaning is used to explain the word further on in the Bible. In the later mentions of the word, the original word's meaning is always used to interpret later verses. The first time viper is used in the Bible, the first time the word snake is used in the Bible, was when the snake deceived Eve. And so Jesus was calling the Pharisees, according to the law first mentioned, you brood of deceivers, you brood of Satans. And that was a lot more offensive sting than the English lets us know. Matthew speaks, Jesus was a remarkable teacher, and he spoke a common man's language, and he was able to use common things and common subjects to found the words for his parables, and his parables were very deep, and it's difficult to understand them even now. And that's why I wrote a book called The Narrow Way to describe the parables, so you can understand Jesus' teaching. And I fully recommend you read the book The Narrow Way, so you can get an understanding of what Jesus preached and what he requires of us as a Christian. Jesus never promoted himself. When healings were done, he didn't announce it on Facebook. He didn't make an announcement of a healing. He often told the person that had been healed not to repeat it to anyone, not to broadcast the fact. Jesus' reputation grew, and people from other countries were coming to see him because they were desperate for healing, desperate for a touch from Jesus. But he was always humble, and he always ministered from a state of brokenness. And he was our example, and he could have, when questioned, where was this guy born, he could have said he was born in Bethlehem, which was recorded in Scripture in one of the prophets as the place that the Messiah was to come from. But when questioned about his birth, he didn't mention Bethlehem. He could have big noted himself. He could have provided truths and answers to questions that would have validated him as the Messiah, but he chose not to do it. And there was wisdom in that. He had to be crucified. That was part of his process, coming to earth to die for men and restore the broken relationship between man and God. And he didn't put himself in a position to be backed by men and raised up to be a leader of Israel. He actively promoted himself in a way that avoided him being promoted to that prominent role. We can take a lesson out of Jesus, and I personally find this passage challenge God. I personally find I must decrease a bit of a challenge because we all want to be known. We all want to have a reputation, and this is contrary to how we're taught. And God speaks. It is contrary to how you're taught. You're taught to promote yourself and promote your books and promote everything. And it's interesting that John the Baptist took that way, and Jesus would require us to be humble and serve others and lay our lives down. And you do that, Matthew. Your books don't serve you, but they serve others, and you you educate other people. And even this book is there for education for people, and it's good instruction. And I enjoy you, and I enjoyed speaking in this one. So God bless you.